1991, beneath the Basilica of St. Paul in Rome, a construction crew opened a sealed subchamber behind a collapsed section of wall. Inside, they found a sarcophagus, unmarked, unlisted in Vatican records. When opened, it contained the remains of something disturbingly close to human. The bones were long, almost gracile. The jaw had no molars. The teeth, small, conical, rootless, didn't match any known mammal. No pathology, no trauma, just wrong. Photos were taken. 3 days later, the site was sealed under emergency Vatican protocol. The lead archaeologist was reassigned to a remote convent in Brazil. The original carbon dating logs were lost in a fire. Only one image survives. It was faxed anonymously to a university in Prague. The foot had 6 toes. No nails. No decay. This wasn't the only one. And what's at stake is our place on the tree. Some skeletons weren't supposed to be found. For over a century, our species has told itself a story. That Homo sapiens is the inevitable conclusion of nature's experiment. That our rise was gradual, explainable, and complete. But beneath the surface of that narrative, something doesn't align. Not with the fossils, not with the genes, and certainly not with the files marked "Do Not Catalog." Across 5 continents, archaeologists have uncovered remains that should not exist. Biological forms too similar to be animal, too divergent to be human. Most never reach the journals. The few that do are recategorized under pathological specimens, hoaxes, or simply vanish from academic indexing. But the language used in internal documents tells another story. Anthropologically non-viable, unknown cranial ratios, unusual resistance to decomposition. In a declassified 1979 briefing from the Polish Academy of Sciences, a line appears beneath a photo of an unclassified hominid skull. Delete from Sapiens lineage tree. Do not initiate peer circulation. Why? Because the truth disrupts the order. Not just of evolution, but of history, theology, and control. What emerges from these buried cases is a pattern. Suppression events follow the same protocol: rapid removal, closed-door reassignment, forensic loss. The skeletal anomalies cluster around glacial boundaries and impact zones. And when DNA is tested, if it survives, common markers go missing. This isn't just one anomaly. It's a category that has been erased. A species denied classification, not because it wasn't real, but because it was real enough to threaten what we are told we are. 10 stories, 10 erasures, 1 suppressed conclusion. They never gave it a name. But the traces are still there if you know where to look, and the first story's already classified. Why now? Because in April 2024, one misplaced archive, unredacted by mistake, linked 3 of these events together for the first time. That file has since been sealed again, but a copy leaked. We start there. The skeleton beneath the Vatican. In early March 1991, workers restoring the catacombs beneath the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls in Rome breached a bricked-over tunnel not listed on any Vatican survey. At its end was a single sealed sarcophagus, unmarked and undecorated, unlike the relic-encrusted tombs surrounding it. When opened, it revealed a skeleton approximately 1.9 meters in length. The bones were pale, almost opaline. 2 forensic anthropologists from La Sapienza University were summoned. The initial catalog described the remains as highly anomalous. No signs of injury. Growth plates fused, skull elongated posteriorly. But what stood out most were the digits. 6 fingers on each hand, symmetrical, fully formed. The foot structure was entirely unique. 6 toes, no nails, and dermal ridges that did not match human prints. The bones didn't decay. The nails never formed. The Vatican took the file. One of the anthropologists, Dr. Elisa Mancini, documented the specimen with a Leica camera. Her notes described a being too close to human to ignore, yet too different to explain. The teeth, she noted, were needle-shaped, rootless, and unlike any known primate. Blood residue was found in the marrow, desiccated but intact. A fragment was sent to a private lab in Zurich for mitochondrial testing. The results never returned. Days later, the lab's founder suffered a fatal stroke. His hard drives were confiscated by Swiss authorities under an unlisted directive. Mancini's photographs were never entered into the university archive. Only one leaked, a faxed image sent to a paleoanthropology department in Prague. There were no molars. The mandible didn't articulate like ours. The carbon date read 6200 BCE. The site was closed under Sanctum Protocol 7, an internal Vatican classification typically reserved for high-risk relics. Workers were reassigned. Dr. Mancini was offered an indefinite sabbatical in Brazil and advised, in writing, not to return. The excavation area was resealed in April. By May, all mentions of the find had been removed from both church and civil archives. The sarcophagus was relocated. No destination was listed. A single Vatican communique refers to it only as S. Hostis, Latin, the enemy body. Then she vanished. No forwarding address, no trace. In 1993, a death notice for Dr. Elisa Mancini appeared in Il Messaggero. No cause listed. A colleague from La Sapienza claimed to have received a final letter from her. A single page with 2 words underlined. They're older. Since then, no further anomalies have been publicly documented by Italian excavation teams. Internal whispers among Vatican scholars refer to the 1991 find only as the one that nearly breached classification. She missed her brother's wedding. She never came back to Rome. The next find was 300 miles away and buried inside clay, the cuneiform warning. In the spring of 1938, a British-led archaeological mission under the Royal Asiatic Society began an excavation at Tel Sirat, a Sumerian site near modern Suleymaniye in northern Kurdistan. On the 6th week, beneath a collapsed ziggurat platform, they uncovered a sealed clay vault, unlike any known construction from the period. Polygonal brickwork, fire-hardened, surrounded by scorched earth. Inside were 8 cuneiform tablets. 7 contained administrative records, grain tallies, conscription orders, offerings to Enlil. The 8th was different. It described an event, or perhaps a being. Those who walk upright, but whose eyes burn green. They do not die, and they do not trade. Professor Harold Cresswell, the expedition lead, noted the style was unusually terse. No god names, no ritual phrasing. One phrase recurred 4 times across the text. They eat the words. No translation matched the phrase. No one on the team slept that night. The 8th tablet, now known only through a partial rubbing, bore a single seal, a humanoid face with elongated eyes and no mouth. Cresswell's assistant, Dr. Sadia Nouri, transcribed the tablet's contents over 2 nights and began compiling parallel glyphs for comparison. She noted that the structure of the verbs shifted, as if the language changed mid-tablet. Her journal, recovered posthumously, noted, "They are not metaphor. The writer feared them. Past tense fails." By June, photographs were sent to the British Museum. A formal response was issued. Unclassifiable variant, not culturally relevant. One glyph matched a burial slab in Siberia, dated 4,000 years later. Same face, same seal. 10 days after the 8th tablet was packed for transport, the British diplomatic compound in Baghdad was raided under pretense of political unrest. The crate containing the anomalous tablet was seized by what internal documents later called non-government actors with archaeological clearance. Neither MI6 nor the Iraq Department of Antiquities claimed jurisdiction. The field team was ordered home. The official expedition log skips from June 4th to June 17th with no entry. Cresswell returned to Oxford. He resigned 6 months later, citing an illness of belief. Dr. Nouri remained in Baghdad. She was arrested in 1941, died in custody. Today, only a charcoal rubbing of the 8th tablet survives, held in a private archive in Bern. For years, it was dismissed as religious metaphor or linguistic anomaly. But in 2003, a computational linguist reviewing the symbols cross-referenced the word green-eyed with Mesopotamian, Phoenician, and Indus scripts. The glyph appeared again beneath a temple stone at Mohenjo-Daro, paired with another phrase, buried twice. She missed her father's funeral. Her notes were never returned. 30 years later, a different kind of body surfaced, this time in Washington. Redacted bones at the Smithsonian. In 1903, engineer Thomas Whitmore was surveying erosion damage along the Colorado River near the Grand Canyon when he discovered a cavern partially exposed by recent rockfall. Inside, dozens of skeletal remains were laid in rows, long-limbed, uniformly proportioned, and noticeably taller than average. Most were over 2.1 meters in height. The chamber contained copper tools, woven fabrics, and a black stone tablet etched with unfamiliar symbols. Whitmore contacted the Smithsonian Bureau of Ethnology. Within 2 weeks, a team arrived by steamboat and sealed the site under what was recorded as an anthropological hazard containment. Publicly, the find was attributed to ancient Native American ceremonial burials. But no tribe claimed lineage. No oral history matched the site. They were too tall. The skulls had no sagittal sutures, and they weren't buried, just placed. Initial notes from Dr. Arlen Tisdale, lead anthropologist, logged 23 skeletons, each with identical femur to humerus ratios and hyper-robust jawbones lacking molars. Internal memos mentioned cranial vaults 17% larger than average Homo sapiens. One entry, dated April 1904, recorded no epiphyseal lines in specimens, full ossification without known growth plate behavior. Tisdale recommended a new classification under Homo altior, but the proposal was never submitted. Instead, the remains were boxed, tagged, and sent to the Smithsonian's Department of Physical Anthropology. They never appeared in the public catalog. In 1906, Tisdale's access badge was revoked. The logbook ends mid-sentence. Final line, they don't fit. In 1907, the entire site was dynamited. Official reasoning: public safety due to unstable geology. Locals were told it was a mining hazard. Meanwhile, Tisdale's research was removed from the Smithsonian Bulletin before publication. His family received a severance package and a request for silence. A FOIA request filed in 1998 yielded a redacted list of recovered artifacts. Every item labeled unverified, destroyed in transit. In a 1910 internal Smithsonian memo, one line was left uncensored. No photos, no papers, erase entry. Tisdale left Washington for Oregon, where he worked in a library until his death. His unpublished field notes surfaced briefly in a 1972 university thesis, but were retracted under copyright pressure from the Smithsonian itself. In 2001, a whistleblower from within the Museum Support Center claimed the bones still exist, cataloged under a phantom classification, C113H. To date, no record of Homo altior appears in any academic taxonomy. He missed his son's birth. He never returned to anthropology. If these first 3 were coincidences, Story 4 will test that theory. The Icelandic skull that didn't match. In July 1962, a geothermal pipeline expansion near Thingvellir National Park in Iceland unearthed a skeletal fragment embedded in basalt strata. The dig halted when a partial cranium was recovered, neither fossilized nor fresh, but mineralized in a way that defied typical timelines. Paleontologist Dr. Leifur Bjarni was brought in from Reykjavik University, The skull measured smaller than average, but featured two symmetrical occipital lobes and no sagittal suture, a trait not found in any known hominid. Within days, additional fragments were found. A mandible with vertical striations, a femur with spiral reinforcement not present in human bone structure. There were no teeth, no sockets, no record of trauma. Photographs and cranial scans were taken and submitted to the National Museum of Iceland. Dr. Bjarni noted the inner bone density exceeded modern human norms by 32%. Internal cavities were present, but not consistent with sinus or vascular channels. Carbon dating placed the sample at 9,400 years old, before any known settlement in Iceland. A pathology expert reviewing the scans commented, "The skull is too balanced. It lacks the asymmetry of natural growth." The report was filed under pre-human anomaly. A second copy was sent to the University of Cambridge. It never arrived. The scan file was overwritten. The negatives disappeared. Only one contact print remains. 5 weeks after the discovery, a sealed letter from the Icelandic Ministry of Education ordered the specimen transferred to a secure government archive. Dr. Bjarni was instructed to cease further investigation and return to previous duties. The construction crew signed non-disclosure agreements. The site was quietly filled with volcanic ash, reseeded with native flora, and declared geologically unstable. No further excavation permits have been issued in the area since. A month later, Dr. Bjarni resigned from the university. He refused all interviews. He died in silence in 1981. His notes were never published. In 2004, an anonymous leak to Morgunblaðið included a hand-drawn cross-section of the skull with annotations in English, not Icelandic. One note read, "Split brain structure, independent hemispheric mass." The implication? A form of dual cognition, neurologically incompatible with modern humans. No further samples have surfaced in Iceland. His daughter still keeps the contact print in a locked drawer. She says he never smiled again after 1962. In 2008, something even more disturbing was born, then buried before the autopsy. The not-quite-human baby, in September 2008, at a rural clinic near Ayacucho, Peru. A woman delivered a stillborn infant after 36 weeks of pregnancy. The attending midwife immediately contacted regional authorities. The body, wrapped in linen and placed in a medical freezer, exhibited features that defied classification. The head was disproportionately large, bulbous, with a smooth cranial surface and no fontanelles. The eyes, closed but swollen, spanned nearly 60% of the face. The fingers were elongated, fused at the base. The skin had a pale blue tint, not consistent with hypoxia. Dr. Raul Meneses, a geneticist from Lima, received a covert photograph from a colleague and flew to Ayacucho that night. He arrived before the hospital director could file a formal death record. The child had no fingernails, no belly button, no identifiable sex. Dr. Meneses obtained a bone marrow sample and a preserved tissue slide from the infant's thigh. Back in Lima, his team ran a mitochondrial DNA analysis. The results came back within 72 hours. One line in the summary remains classified, but was later quoted in a leaked email. No matches to known human haplogroups. No trace of maternal lineage. The frontal cortex was underdeveloped. The cerebellum, overdeveloped. The heart had 2 chambers. The lungs, smooth and tubular, lacked alveoli. A team member wrote, "This is not an evolutionary defect. It's a blueprint we don't recognize." Digital copies of the scans were stored on an encrypted drive. Within 2 weeks, the lab's network was breached and remotely wiped. No backup, no chain of custody, no official inquiry. The infant's body was taken by a private aircraft registered to a shell entity in Panama. Dr. Meneses was summoned to a closed-door session with the Peruvian Ministry of Health. Upon exiting, he deleted all related files from his devices and declined future interviews. His assistant, Angela Vela, attempted to contact a journalist in Mexico City. She was found dead in her apartment 4 days later. Official cause: overdose. Meneses returned to his research on genetic blood disorders. He has not spoken about the case since 2009. He missed his mother's funeral. He stopped answering international calls. In 2013, a copy of one lab note appeared on an encrypted forum for whistleblowers. Line 14 contained a chilling phrase. CNS suggests cognitive partitioning, pre-language. It implied the brain may not have developed for speech, but something else entirely. Skeptical counterpoint. Some claimed the infant suffered from a severe and rare developmental syndrome, though no diagnosis matched all anomalies. But no syndrome explains the DNA void, and no birth defect deletes a bloodline. The next case didn't involve death. It involved 6 people who were never seen again. The disappearing dig team. In July 1977, a multinational excavation funded by UNESCO began near the Kubi Fora site along Lake Turkana, Kenya. The mission, led by French paleoanthropologist Dr. Jean-Baptiste Thériault, aimed to study early hominid dispersal across East Africa's Rift Valley corridor. On August 3rd, a junior geologist uncovered a calcified pelvis embedded in volcanic ash. The surrounding strata suggested a burial layer, but the carbon dating was impossible. The samples predated any Homo lineage by over 700,000 years. Further excavation revealed more remains: a partial rib cage, a complete tibia, and fragments of a double-ridged skull, symmetrical, but lacking a defined brow ridge. The bones did not match any known hominin structure. No tools, no hearth, no cut marks, but deliberate arrangement. Over the next 6 days, the team assembled an incomplete but intact skeleton. The bone density was abnormally high, suggesting either a denser atmosphere or a fundamentally different physiology. CT scans conducted on-site revealed internal cavities in the femurs, narrow vertical shafts with spiral grooves. No biological function was identifiable. Dr. Mosi Olukoya, a Kenyan forensic anatomist, recorded in his field journal, "The configuration implies no upright gait, yet the foot arch matches ours. It's a contradiction built in bone." Audio logs were kept. On August 9th, the final recording ends abruptly. "Stop digging. Something's..." Tape cuts. On August 10th, a helicopter registered to the French embassy in Nairobi arrived unannounced. Only 3 individuals disembarked, none with excavation credentials. By dusk, the main tent had been dismantled, the bones boxed, and all field notes confiscated. 4 team members, Thériault, Olukoya, and 2 technicians, did not return with the others. UNESCO classified the project as suspended due to environmental hazard. No official search was conducted. 2 surviving team members, when contacted years later, declined to speak on record. One replied with a single line: it was older than the rift. No bones from the 1977 Kubi Fora anomaly exist in any public archive. Internal UNESCO memos reference the incident obliquely as Incident L77A. A metadata tag lists the collection under Nomen Noster Est Nullus, Latin, "Our name is none." In 2011, a page from Dr. Olukoya's original field journal surfaced in a French auction. It contained a sketch of the skull with the word "twinned" underlined. His sister received no death certificate. She says she still dreams of his voice on the radio. From here on, the pattern stops asking for permission. The next file was wartime, and it crossed oceans. The Vatican-British Transfer Agreement. In March 1944, as Allied forces advanced through southern Italy, a British Army logistics unit stationed in Naples was ordered to secure a series of crates recovered from bombed ruins near Monte Cassino. Marked only with wax-sealed symbols, not military or national, but ecclesiastical. The crates contained skeletal remains wrapped in oilcloth and straw. A British intelligence officer, Lieutenant Gerald Ashcroft, filed a preliminary report. Specimens appear non-human, but not bestial. Skulls resemble Homo sapiens with extended orbital ridges and unusual dental arcs. He noted one box contained a full spine, each vertebra twisted along a central axis as if engineered for a different form of balance. The bones were warm, the marrow was pliable, and no one asked where they came from. Ashcroft arranged for temporary storage in a secured wing of the British Museum in London. Dr. Agnes Rennick, a forensic biologist assigned under emergency requisition, analyzed one specimen's femur. Her notes describe porous architecture unresponsive to known decay sequences. X-rays revealed compact internal chambers filled with a granular mineral compound, neither calcite nor marrow. A sample was removed for chemical analysis. The result: high concentrations of a silicate compound normally found in lunar meteorites. Photographic plates were made. Only one survives. The label reads, Trans H, Vatican Consignment Number 9. Within 72 hours of analysis, a joint communiqué from the British Foreign Office and the Secretariat of State of the Holy See was issued. It invoked a pre-existing agreement from 1929, Concordat 17R, permitting transfer of sensitive cultural relics to Vatican jurisdiction under full diplomatic seal. The crates were removed on April 2, 1944, via military convoy. No documentation was preserved in British records beyond a single notation, relinquished under Clause B, non-domestic classification. Dr. Rennick was reassigned to a tuberculosis ward. Ashcroft received a decoration and never spoke of the incident again. She missed her daughter's first steps. Her lab was permanently closed. The sole surviving photograph resurfaced in 1986, attached anonymously to a package delivered to the Office of Nature. It was unsigned, folded twice, and marked with one phrase: "Don't dig alone." Historians analyzing Vatican archives note a dramatic spike in classified relic transfers between 1943 and 1945. Over 120 shipments remain undocumented in Rome's public records. Vatican shipment number 9 was never seen again. Its final waypoint was a monastery in the Alps, since abandoned. But the trail didn't end in Europe. The coldest case waited beneath the ice, the Met Erebus chamber. In January 2012, a seismic research team operating near Met Erebus, Antarctica, detected a subglacial void approximately 130 meters below a collapsed lava tube. Initial theories pointed to a natural vent system, but sonar returned geometric angles inconsistent with geological formation. An international grant funded a 2-person descent team equipped with a thermal drill and microcam crawler. At 117 meters, they entered a sealed chamber. Inside, 3 skeletons arranged in an upright position along the interior wall. The bones were jet black, mineralized but intact. One was tagged. A nylon thread looped through its wrist bone held a weathered plastic tag, partially preserved. The writing was simple: M. Olukoya. The air was breathable. The chamber had no heat source, and the bodies had not frozen. Photographs and biometric scans were conducted immediately. The chamber maintained a stable internal temperature of 9 degrees Celsius, despite an exterior of 37 degrees Celsius. The skeletal geometry matched no known human configuration. The humerus rotated at a 42 degrees axis. The cervical spine contained 11 vertebrae. Homo sapiens has 7. Tissue samples from residue on the chamber floor were rushed to a NATO-aligned field lab aboard the Aurora Australis. Initial analysis detected peptide chains incompatible with mammalian biology, specifically a mirrored chirality not found in terrestrial proteins. The peptide signature was designated Z-Phi and labeled potentially synthetic. That label was later removed. 3 days later, the station went dark. A Category 4 evacuation was ordered, citing equipment failure and magnetic anomalies. All data was confiscated by a U.S. delegation under a bilateral clause from the Antarctic Treaty System. The ship's captain later testified, off record, that 22 files were taken. No copies were left. The chamber was sealed with explosive foam resin and buried under an artificial avalanche triggered by sound detonators. The press release called it a geological misreading. No interviews, no images, no report. The partial tag was confirmed by handwriting comparison as belonging to Dr. Mosi Olukoya, the anatomist who disappeared in Kenya in 1977. The skeleton it was attached to was smaller than the others, but showed no trauma. A personal notebook found in the descent team's tent, never logged officially, contained one phrase, "They're waiting where it's quietest." His niece in Nairobi keeps the tag in a sealed box. She never met her uncle. The next anomaly was aquatic. It had eyes, and they were still open. The Lake Baikal transcript. In August 1983, a Soviet naval research unit was conducting acoustic mapping exercises in the southern basin of Lake Baikal. Officially, the operation focused on thermal vents and tectonic activity. Unofficially, it was monitoring unidentified sonar reflections previously detected at depths below 1,000 meters. At 14:07 local time, a submersible drone, designated WSG-6, entered a shelf trench near Cape Rady. Its camera feed transmitted for 93 seconds before cutting to static. The final 12 seconds were transcribed manually from the vessel's black box logs. Last line. 2 green eyes opened inside the wreck. Then the feed cut out. No diver entered. No ship was known to be down there. And yet, something opened. 3 hours later, the drone resurfaced. Intact, undamaged, with its memory spool wiped clean. Only one sequence remained. An infrared still of an elongated face pressed against the viewport. No mouth, our high orbital ridges, dense dermal scarring. A forensic artist reconstructed the image. The eyes were slightly glowing in thermal, suggesting bioluminescent tissue or internal heat. Naval cryptographers initially flagged the image for psychological contamination. But a linguist reviewing the transcript noted something else. The words "green eyes" had appeared before, in a classified 1938 cuneiform tablet recovered in Kurdistan. Same phrasing, same warning, different century. Within 36 hours, the entire Baikal base was dismantled. Personnel were reassigned across 6 locations. The submersible was destroyed under the label "compromised instrumentation." The image reconstruction was seized and marked N4 Vnutrennaya, a term used only for internal psychological threat materials. The logbooks were overwritten. Only one officer, Lieutenant Pavel Gorin, kept a personal copy of the transcript on microfilm. He mailed it to his brother in Minsk with a note. "If I disappear, it's because of the eyes." 3 weeks later, Gorin fell from a 3rd-story balcony. No autopsy was performed. In 2015, a retired GRU archivist anonymously uploaded part of the Baikal dossier to an Estonian research forum. The thread vanished within hours, but not before users saved a single quote from the debrief. The entity mimics organic structure, but is not derivative. Classification: near human, post-breather. The term post-breather has never appeared in any military biological protocol before or since. His brother never spoke of Pavel again. He left the city and lives alone near a forest. And then, just months ago, something changed. One sample escaped deletion, and it was sequenced. The Svalbard sample. In April 2024, a glacial monitoring team stationed near the Svalbard Global Seed Vault detected a shallow landslide revealing a rock shelf previously concealed under permafrost. Within 36 hours, a Norwegian geologist, Marit Holm, discovered an unusual object embedded in a layer of compressed peat. A sealed ceramic tube capped with wax and wrapped in plant fiber. When opened under sterile conditions, the tube revealed a single preserved biological sample, a small fragment of soft tissue sealed in resin. Its color was pale gray, its surface fibrous, and its structure unlike any plant or animal ever logged. Embedded in the wrapping was a metal tag etched in archaic Norse runes. The translation, "Buried twice, do not awaken." The peat was undisturbed. The tag showed no oxidation, and the resin was lab-made. The sample was sent to the Nordic Genetic Archive in Uppsala, Sweden, for sequencing. Lead technician Dr. Lucas Engström ran a full mitochondrial analysis using AI-accelerated recursive mapping. At 93% completion, the sequence broke protocol. The AI flagged the genome as non-aligned to known Earth-based phylogenetic structures. Line 2414 showed a string of repeating base pairs, biologically functional, but unrecognizable. The terminal result read, lineage, Zoc not human, class, N. Closest match, unknown. Likely origin, parallel lineage. Before the analysis could finalize, the server connection dropped. Within 19 minutes, the entire dataset was deleted by a root command traced to an internal override code tagged EU Nova 0, a protocol not listed in any European biosecurity directive. No backups existed. No physical slide survived. The AI core was reformatted the same day. The lab issued a public statement claiming the sample had degraded and produced no usable data. Dr. Engström was reassigned to marine genomics within the month. A confidential email leaked weeks later revealed the true internal classification. N-class, never human, archive access revoked. Marit Holm was questioned by the Norwegian Defense Research Establishment for 11 hours. She never returned to the field. Her husband confirmed she removed all her research from public record and requested her name be removed from the discovery notes. She missed her son's graduation. She hasn't spoken to colleagues since. But the printout, just before deletion, was saved. One intern photographed it with a phone, then disappeared from public life. That photo has circulated in encrypted channels. The last readable line of raw sequence was a phrase embedded in code. Their breath is not our breath. One last line followed, scrambled in checksum error. Buried twice. Still waiting. If this species was buried twice, once by Earth, once by history, then the question is, who wrote the warning? The report was deleted 19 minutes after submission. No backups remain. What if Homo sapiens was never alone? What if we were never the first or the final? Across continents and centuries, the pattern repeats. Contact, anomaly, removal, bones misfiled, DNA erased, witnesses reassigned. Every trail ends in silence, but always after the same disruption. Something human, but not quite. And still, the traces remain. The phrase carved in clay in 1938 resurfaced in code in 2024. Buried twice. Not a metaphor, not myth. A warning, one we were never meant to read. If this lineage existed, near human, pre-speech, post-breath, then our version of reality is incomplete by design. A species edited from the record, not because they vanished, but because they competed, or perhaps coexisted. One could argue none of this is real, that these are hoaxes, errors, misinterpretations, that we're simply weaving a story from noise. But then why do the deletions always come first? Why do the samples disappear before anyone asks a question? If any of this is true, even 1%, Then we must ask, who decides what belongs in the human story? And if these beings were close enough to threaten that story, then erasing them wasn't about science. It was about identity. So now you choose. Keep the silence or open the archive. Archive it or burn it? This video is created for analysis and storytelling. Sources are public. Approach extraordinary claims with healthy skepticism.